Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at some alternative travel cameras.
Well, working 3 jobs, living out of a car. Mama never told me life would get this hard. Running around the world playing my guitar. Baby, you can love me, you can leave me, I'm a honky-tonk star.
So when you go on vacation or traveling, more than likely you're going to take a main shooter. Right now I'm in the process of determining which one that'll be. But you also might want to take a alternative camera with you to help supplement the footage that you get from your main camera. The type of camera that you use for your alternative camera will be dependent on what kind of activities you're going to be doing. And for instance, this time I'm going skiing, so it's going to change my selection as far as my alternative camera goes. I have a few alternative cameras that I like to use. I'm going to show you which ones that I have, kind of the pros and cons, briefly pros and cons of each one. And I want to tell you which ones I want to take on my trip with me. So the first alternative camera that I want to talk about is the Osmo Pocket. This is a Generation 1. And it's a really, really interesting camera. It's good for you want a very light and inconspicuous setup. It seems to me that when you're out in public, people really don't notice you if you're filming or taking pictures with a cell phone or a super small camera. And this Osmo Pocket fits into that bracket. When I'm using it out and about, it doesn't seem to get noticed much. When you start increasing the size of the camera, people start to take notice of what you're doing and it might draw attention to yourself. And if you don't like that a whole lot, this is a good camera to go with. This is also a very good camera to film yourself when you're moving through a scene. It has a auto track function in it, and it'll track you moving around a little bit. It's not the greatest tracking in the world, but it will give you some good tracking. And if you use it along with the app, if you're moving around in the scene very much at all, it does a pretty good job of giving you that footage. So it's a very good camera for situations like that. This camera, or small gimbal I guess, does really, really cool time lapses. So you can start in one and move to another part of the scene. Depending on, you can set a timer and the gimbal will move from one spot to the next. And that creates a really cool time lapse movie when all is said and done. So that's another cool feature about this camera. One of the main problems when using this camera as a vlogging camera is the field of view is very, very tight. But they do offer, you can buy a freewheel lens adapter that goes on the camera and will widen your field of view a lot. So we'll throw that on now and see what it looks like afterwards. Okay, as you can see, the field of view has gotten much wider and it's a much better angle to vlog with. And hopefully the audio will be pretty good coming out of the camera because I'm using my extended microphone setup. Again, if you're just going vlogging, this is a great setup. It's nice and light, and the audio should be good. And now that I had the freewheel lens adapter, the field of view is much wider and much better. I don't think it'll be good for skiing because if I wrecked and I was using this camera and I happened to wreck while skiing, I'm pretty sure the camera wouldn't survive. So that's one of the reasons, the main reason that I'm not going to take it skiing with me. But otherwise, a great camera to have. So we'll throw the Osmo Pocket up here so I can show you some of the footage coming out of the Osmo Pocket. The pictures always look really nice and crisp and clear out of it. I've always been generally pretty impressed with the picture that comes out of it. Moving on to the next camera that you might want to use as an alternate camera while you're on vacation. We're going to talk about the RX100 Mark VII. This camera is a super good camera. Again, kind of like the Osmo Pocket, if you want to be a little bit, if you want a super light kit that is going to be extremely versatile. I would say that this camera is a little bit more versatile than the Osmo Pocket, but then again, it's just a little bit bigger. The focal range on this camera is incredible. I think it goes somewhere between 24 and 200 millimeters, which is an incredible, versatile focus range for a travel camera. The RX100 Mark VII, to me, is just a little bit too tight for vlogging. So you start off with a 24mm lens, and then you add a crop for 4K 30, which that's what I shoot in. And then you add a crop for the active digital stabilization that's in the camera. So you wind up around 30 millimeters, give or take. And to me, that's just a little bit too tight to vlog in. So that's one of the downsides of the camera. But on the flip side, it's super light, super portable. I just have a little bitty microphone, the Ceramonic sticking out the side of it, and it does a good job of recording. And it's really versatile when you go to just take it around and shoot stuff. So if you're going to be vlogging a whole lot with this camera, you're probably going to need a fairly long selfie stick. So here we have the RX100 Mark 7 on a fairly long selfie stick, and as you can see, it's pretty much that's a pretty good field of view for vlogging. So if you're going to be using this as a vlog camera, you're going to need to buy a selfie stick. So anyway, that's a look at the Sony RX100 Mark 7, a great camera, probably the greatest secondary camera you could possibly have, and it would be an excellent first camera. So that's the RX100 Mark 7. The next thing we're going to talk about is the new one of the bunch the new one to me anyway, is the Insta360 One X2. It's really hard for me to remember the name of it, but just Insta360 One Insta360 One X2. So hard for me to remember the name, but we're going to talk about this camera just a little bit. Now, since I got in this camera, it is really, I've only had it for a few weeks now, but it has really impressed me. I'm sure you've seen a million videos of this camera, but the gist of it is you can throw it on this little stick like this, the stick disappears, and you can pretty much hold this camera wherever you want to hold it, and it'll take videos at 360 degrees. So you don't have to worry so much about the camera placement or where you have it pointed. As long as you have it at the right level, height that you want it, it's going to have the perfect camera shot. So it's been really interesting to use this camera, and this camera is only limited by your imagination. I mean, it's so much fun to use. And another good thing about this camera is that it is water sealed. So if you get a little bit wet, now I wouldn't go dunking it in the water or anything, but if you get a little bit wet, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And you can just feel by the construction of it that it is a pretty heavy duty. I mean, I wouldn't be afraid if I crashed with this on my person that I was going to break it, which is another good plus that I think that I'll definitely taking this camera with me. But there are just a few things that I wish they would improve about this camera. Number one is the audio. I took it out the other day to the botanical garden and just kind of sat it down. Just kind of wanted to see what it looked like when I was doing just a standard, set it here, talk to it camera type of shot. And the audio, the sound didn't match my mouth, which was kind of weird. So I think the audio is going to be a problem. It's not going to be the best when you're using this camera. I wish this camera had a looping mode for the video recording, because you never know when action is going to happen. And pretty much if you just go filming throughout the day, you're going to burn through memory cards fairly quickly. So I wish I had a looping mode, so when action happens, you could stop the recording and it'll save that specific point in time. And I really wish that it had 60 frames per second in it. It does have 50 frames per second, I think. When you go down to 4K, in that mode, the video quality is not that good. It's not that great anyway, but I'm sure if you go down to 4K, the video quality is going to be even worse. So I could stick at 30 frames per second. Really wish it had 60 frames per second in this camera. That would be totally awesome to have in it, but it doesn't. But as it is, it's a great camera to have. The last camera we're going to talk about is the GoPro. And I think a GoPro is an excellent camera to take with you on vacation, because it really does supplement and can supplement your main camera so well. It's so small and lightweight. It's rugged, waterproof. It's easy to stick places. It's easy to pack away in your bag. And it's a nice one to have with you. I'm definitely going to take this one with me when I go skiing. The audio is decent. The picture quality is decent. I mean, you know, if you're watching this video, you probably know all about a GoPro, and this is a Hero 7. It's a few generations old. I really haven't seen the need to upgrade it. I mean, the Hero 9 has a front-facing screen on it, but I mean, if you can't get this thing, if you can't get yourself screened up in this thing, I mean, you got some problems because it is so wide, and that's one of the features of it that I like, because I think if I go skiing, put on my little headband, stick it on the front, I'll be able to catch up. I'll be able to pretty much get everything I need to in the shot, because I can put it on an ultra wide shot and it'll show pretty much everything. So the GoPro is definitely in the bag when I go on vacation, because it's just so versatile. So that's just a look at a few of the different cameras that you can use as alternate cameras when you go on vacation. What you decide to use as an alternate camera is going to greatly depend on what you're doing, what activities you're doing on your vacation. For instance, like I say, okay, camera went off, lights went off. I think it's time to call this one wraps. But like I say, all these cameras that I mentioned today would make a great, excellent secondary cameras to take with you while you're on vacation. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and take a look at the next video on the travel camera series, when I'm going to make a final decision on what to use as my A camera. Thanks for watching.
Baby, you can love me, you can leave me, I'm a honky-tonk star.